Hey guys, so next on this introduction to uh, DMing and setting up for your first session, be it a one shot or a long term campaign, is coming up with a theme for your world. At this point, you've got a couple of options. One, you take a pre written setting, Faerun, Ravnica, Theros, Wildmount, etc., and you go with them. You buy the book. You buy the book on that area. You read it, and you get your theme. Other option is build your own, a homebrew world. How do you build a homebrew world? You don't build the world. Let's start with that. You do not try and build the entire world at one go. It's not practical. What you do is you build small bits as and when you need it. World Anvil, which is a site I use for a lot of putting my documents together. Dimitri and Giant over there talk about agile world building, and honestly, it's basically what I've done from when I started, which is basically you make notes, you make one line sentences, small paragraphs on information that you think about, and you expand on it at the point you need it. So if your players seem like they're really interested in this area, you expand on that. But first off, you need a hook to get the players in. So today is about getting that overview of what you want to play. What world you want to be set, you want to play in. So, a couple of questions for this. And what's the motivation for building the world? Why do you want to build it? So obviously in our cases we are DMs. So we want a world to play in. So we need some reasons for conflict and activity within the world. So we'll come to that in a bit. What is your unique selling point of the world? So as an example, as you'll see up in the top corner here, Bavassan is what happens if you get Equinopolis fancy world. So basically a single city world with 90 most of the world's population living within that city or very nearby it. I wanted a city-based game. That's why that got created, and it's a massive city, and it's just expanded on. Been expanded on time and time. I've got two games running there, and they're so far apart they're never going to run into each other. But the stuff I'm building for one is useful for the other because it's all the organisations, political groups, and it gives me an idea of how everybody's going to interact. So that's we're not doing Bavassan. I've already done that, and there's already well advanced into the agile world building, and it's been expanded on. So there's no need to. I'm not going to use that as an example. What we're going to use is something a bit different, something new for me. So, what is there which we've already got? What we've already got. If you think about world settings, you've got. Let's go for the core ones. Faerun. It's a classic fantasy world. Everything gets shoved in there and is made to work. You've got elves, you get dragonborns, you get dwarves, you get gnomes, you get halflings, you get everybody. Any sentient race that's in D&D ends up in Faerun in some form. It has gods. It has primordial wars between primordials and the gods. The elemental planes, the Feywild and the Shadowfell, are all kept very separate from Faerun. Why? What would happen if we started having bleed from the different elemental planes and the Feywild and the Shadowfell? What would happen if they bled into the real world? And that's what I thought about for this campaign. And it's just something I came up with while I was working today. So, planar bleed into the physical world. So that is my core. That's my initial statement on the world. That is the overall idea behind the world. So basically, you have patches of the world where you have the plane of fire in the world. What would that do to the world? Same with water, same with air, same with earth. But on top of that, you're going to get the Feywild bleeding in. You're going to get the Shadowfell bleeding in. Why has this happened? Let's just put it all up there so you can read it all. Why has this bleed happened? Couple of options. Magic went wrong. Somebody in a magical experiment and broke the barriers between the planes. Another one. So in Faerû, as an example, the gods and the Primordials fought. The gods didn't technically win. The Abortor got split into two, effectively two worlds, slightly in different planes of existence. And then there was some interesting effects that caused them to come back. But I was wondering, what would happen if the Primordials had won the fight against gods? So rather than it being the gods being worshipped by the races on this world, what would happen if it was the Primordials, so the elemental beings? Would that cause some problem? Would that cause some cracks in the world? Possibly. So I quite like that idea. Magic gone wrong. I've done it before. It's happened. I'm pretty certain the Primordials winning. So what would it mean if the Primordials won a fight? Means Primordial being gods. So this is what I do. I make sentences to go. What does this go from one, go to another? So in this case, I've decided I'm not going to do magic went wrong because I've done it before. So we'll cross that out. I quite like this idea of the Primordials won the fight against the gods. So rather than the clerics worshipping gods, they worship primordial beings. It is something I'm thinking. So that primordials being the big gods. That's right. I'm not too worried about how the world's structure is at the moment because I'm only going to be dealing with a small area, but that gives me an overall thought. So that gives me overall thoughts. So next on my list for what I need to think about. So that's my unique selling point. The planes bleeding into the physical world. That is the core idea. So, first adventure. It needs to show this bleed. So the first adventure needs to show the bleed. So obviously, BVG of first adventure is going to be either Elemental, Fey, or Shadowfell. Because they're the four. They're the groups which people know when you're talking about. Obviously, there are the Devil dimensions there, and I'm not sure I'll have them bleed in. I think I'll keep it to the Elemental plate, the inner ones. So the Fey, the Shadowfell, and the Elemental. They're the ones closest to the physical world. There's also then you've got the bits of 9 hours if you want to go for the full cosmology. So, but that might be different with the Primordials. So at that point, my next thing I need to think about is the theme. What's the core thoughts of the world? As an example, let's just bring up. I'm just going to bring up my World Anvil site for Babelsand, and in here I've got if I go to explore, actually, I did thought is apparently I didn't put it in there. That was clever of me. Articles. I wrote. If I go looking. Setting the scene, foundation of the Babelsand. Let's go for the foundation. So let's have a look at this. What did I write in here? Motivation for Biru. Economic society. We've talked about this stuff. Fee, what's the genre of the world? Bowser, it's fancy with a special point magic tech. So technology level is higher than the average fantasy world. Drawn there, and then it's a applicable setting with conflict between the nobles, the guilds, and the mages. What happens when democracy is forced by magic? So, in this case, I'm not going to go for something like that. So it's going to be fancy. High magic? Probably. Got elemental. It's going to. I'm thinking at this point in time. I think everybody is going to be affected by this bleed. So everybody's going to get a cantrip which fits the six areas we're talking about. So basically, one of the things people are going to choose when they go character gen is what ancestry have they been affected by. So one of the elements, Fey or Shadow. That's just a thought on my part. Steampunk and Magitech. Honest answer? Don't think I want. I think I want to keep this pretty clean fantasy. So no. What's the tone of the world? Tone. Is this going to be a gritty RP? Is this going to be a dark RP? Is this going to be horror? Is this going to be light and comical? Honest answer, with when I run, I don't do dark. Most of my players don't enjoy really dark settings. Might put a touch of horror in there if I want, but that's not what D&D. That's for me. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not a fan of Strahd as an example. So for me, tone is hearted, edge of. What do we think? Wondrous. I'm thinking light-hearted, so bit of fun with an edge of wondrous. So wondrous, when I'm talking about wondrous, I'm thinking, hey, everybody's going to be a little bit magical. So magic isn't unusual. Magic's common in the world. People don't fear it or anything, but it's part of what the world is. So I'm thinking high level magic might be a more common thing in this world. So, and what does that mean? That means larger structures, wonders of the world are possible because they've been built by magic. Sky cities, potentially. Floating towers of the high mages. Mage towers are actually underwater. This sort of thing. I quite like that idea. Character agency level. So, why are the characters doing what they're doing? Why are they adventuring? So this is where the characters need to be at the start of the game, so you can get them in. So previously, I've done in the Bavzan game. I've got a group that's part of a mercenary guild, and they're hired out to do jobs, and they've got the chance to become their own mercenary group if they so want. I've got another group who I've actually modified Dragon House, which is a Wizard of the Coast source book, and I'm running that in Bavzan. So they're a group of adventurers who've ended up with a tavern. In this case, I don't know. I'm not sure where these guys are going to go. Anything about the first story before I fill that in? I'm going to think, to start with, the guards. Caravan guards. So I think village, town, game based out of So I think the start of the campaign will be they're getting paid for the job they've just finished, escorting this caravan to wherever we start the game. So they're all going to start with a bit of money, which is always good, as this is designed to be an intro to D&D. Just get on with it. So next up is current theme, gender, tone. Normally, come with a few ideas for this. You want something based. You want to give them options. So, theme of world. Elemental. Obviously, Elemental is the core of the game. Elemental, Fey and Shadow planes. What else do we think? What did I choose? What did I say for Bavelzan at this point? This is just an example. So Bavelzan, I put political. Plane of travel is the norm, so people aren't surprised about seeing weird people from out and about. That might be a good one. So, if somebody ran into somebody's come from another world, they'll be surprised. There's not spelljammer ships, etc. I'm not sure on the third one. I'm going to leave the third one for now. I'm sure there will be something else I come up with. Next on it is meta. And meta is some big worldwide thinking events. So what you want to do is you want to choose, again, you want to choose a few things. I actually have, and again, this is something which World Anvil did and I've used most of these myself in the past. Here's a big list of them. So government present, rule of law, social services, economic shelf, wealth distribution, agricultural trade, race for race, charts. These are going to be what causes your conflict. You need some of these to cause conflict. So I'm thinking class, people with certain ancestry, certain elemental ancestry are seen as better than others. I'm thinking potentially a class structure. So maybe the fire's on top, followed by air, followed by earth, and the shadow and the Fae are seen as underclasses, possibly, just as something. That could be interesting. Could cause some interesting conflicts. So class. Race. Don't think so. Military. Military is always a good one. At the moment, I have no idea what the structure of the kingdom's going to be. And it's something I'm probably not going to think about at the moment. I'll see what my players come up with, because that's an area where they can be affected. 3. Trade. I mean, certain areas are going to be affected by elemental. It's going to be difficult to plant crops in somewhere where the fire plane has bled over. It's going to be hot, it's going to be humid, it's going to be dry. It's not going to be somewhere where you can grow plants. But it'll be really good for minerals and smithing. Defined by blade and what they can grow and make. Do I think gender is going to be? Do I think males and females are equal? Honestly, I think so. At the moment, I don't. That's one which I try and avoid because it. I think that's probably enough for now. I might change some more. Next on the thing is, so we'll just get rid of those for the time being. The next one here is drama. Drama. We're not talking about past drama. We're talking about what's going on right now, what's causing problems, what's going to be the aggro. I am thinking risen. It's nearly off. So what would happen if a divine god is trying to push its way back in after the primordials have taken the place over? So that's quite a big scale thing. That could be cults, that could be clerics and paladins, and the cloak. One of your players is actually a cleric of this new god, not one of the primordial gods. Could cause some interesting stuff. Elven City has reappeared from the Fey or Shadow. So I'm thinking, and this is just something I've just thought of now, is all the elves disappeared generations ago. 100 generations, whatever. We'll come up with a name. They all, maybe at the same time as the elemental, all these bleed happened, and they actually shifted. All the elven people shifted in either to the Fey or the Shadow. They've reappeared, and because of this structure where we were saying the elements are seen on top and the Fey and the Shadow are underclass, what happens if you get long life living elves, highly skilled, highly motivated, coming back, affected by the Fey and the Shadow? How are they going to be seen? That could be interesting. Just a thought. What else we've got? War between two kingdoms. Again, I've not come up with any kingdoms yet, so I think Cold War, tension on border, or disputed territory. I can't spell. I do apologise. Disputed lands between two kingdoms. So, and that could be where we started. So we actually, in maybe demilitarized zone, a disputed territory on the borders, no man lands between two kingdoms, and it's heated up now. So what's been tension on the border, Cold War, lots of posturing and verbal words might now be spilling out into open combat, open fighting. First time in generation, shall we say. So maybe this land that you're in now is not doesn't just have the issues it has with whatever normal bandits and such like now. You actually now have two kingdoms potentially about to start a fight in them, which you stand in the middle of. Do you choose sides? Do you try and just keep everybody safe? Do you do whatever? But that gives you something really strong to start. 4. So we've got religion. We've got religious tension. We've got material tension within the gods, and you've got racial tension where the elves have come back. Potentially also class tension because the elves are going to be affected by the Shadow and the Fae. So I think 3 isn't a bad place to start. I may come up with some more. Let me just think. What else did I come up with? No, I think that's probably all right for the time being. We may come up, we can add more. Again, this is just initial thoughts. World of the world compared to Earth. So, always one which I've always thought of is what makes this world different to Earth? Is it a flat world? Is it a flat world riding on the back of elephants on the back of a giant tortoise? Turtle. Undine is a turtle. No, we're not playing in this world. Elemental magic is easy and common to a point that everybody has a small amount, and I might do that where as they level up they start at level 1 with a small cantrip and then maybe level 5 to get something bigger. Yeah, we'll see. Big magic is easy, so one. Cities, sky cities, massive structures, underwater towns. Big magic is easy. Stuff that works with the elements is easy. So the big magic you. I think that'll probably do. I don't think we need to mess around with it more than that. Because in all honesty, I don't think there's anything else we need to mess around with that. Let's have a look. So, cosmology. We've already spoken about this a bit. Primordials in charge, not the gods. So, we will have 4 big primordials. Earth, fire, wind, earth, fire, air, water. And we may have some minor ones which are combinations of 2 of the others. So we could start with 4 major primordial gods and then 8 minor, or whatever number minor. And that could be something which the players help with, because if we get a cleric and they want to design their own god, let them. Geography. What is different about this world to others? Well, the obvious one. Elemental, shadow, or fey. So there's going to be areas where the elemental planes have taken over, or the Shadowfell's taken over. So there'll be these dark, creepy forests which are the shadow, or there'll be these highly light and fey places with forests potentially, or there'll be an area where it's you cross a boundary and it goes unbearably warm for most people. So the plane of fire, not that everything's on fire, it's just warm and hot. And the water area, so maybe you've got an area where a waterfall just appears out of the sky and just drops down into a lake, constantly creating a water effect. That sort of thing. It's going to be fantastical. It's going to be magical. It's not normal. Other than that, I don't think there's a huge amount more we need to say. That initial area. I'm going to say we're going to do a large village in no man's land between 2 kingdoms. So, I'm already thinking, map-wise, I need a map of the no man's land. I need names for the 2 kingdoms with a paragraph about each kingdom, and why one kingdom doesn't like the other and starting a war. Or is it just they think they're better than them and they should have more territory? We'll see. People of the histories. Who lives on this plane? Let's just go for something nice and quick and easy. If we just go over here, I'm going to bring up D&D Beyond. The reason I'm bringing up D&D Beyond is because if you go here and go to my character, I'm just going to create a new character. You may notice lots of characters. I like D&D Beyond. If we go here and just go to standard, and all I'm going to do here is races. There's a lot of races. No world is going to have all races in. Not naturally, anyway. You may have had them turn up. So at the moment, I'm thinking, what people would naturally be here? So we're talking primordial gods. So I'm thinking Aarakocra for air. Dragonborn and humans. Primordial. So dragons are the angels of the primordial. So rather than having celestial beings, you have dragons who are the angels and the archangels. Dragonborns are their natural creation. So rather than having Aasimar, you have Dragonborn. I think. Humans. Sorry to say it, you always have humans in the world. Aarakocra for the air. Dwarves for earth. Fire. Temper. I'm thinking Minotaurs and Orcs for fire. I'm thinking about those two because neither of you want to play Minotaurs, and the Orcs gives you option. You could potentially play a half Orc, etc. So, air, earth, fire, water. So we need something for the water. Ashvat, well, that Goliaths into that for the earth as well. And I'm just having to think what we could use for. So what I'm looking at here is what we could use for. Obviously, there's tridents, tortles could be fun. Tortles and tridents maybe for water. Tortle and tridents for water. And shadow and fey. That's easy. Elves. So that gives you seven. What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 core races you can play potentially in this setting. There's no halflings. There's no gnomes. There's no cult. And if somebody wanted to play something else, we'll see about fitting it in. But I'm thinking initially, that's my thought. Why am I only having the Aarakocra for fair? Because I don't like Kenku. A personal opinion, I really dislike the fact Kenku cannot talk and it's a pain in the backside for RP and everything else. So Aarakocra gives you a bird people, etc. The Dragonborns could. I mean, the Dragonborns will be related to one of the elements depending on their colour, what they want to play. But I think that gives you a nice mixture of potential people to play. The Minotaurs and Orcs for fire because of the hot-tempered, etc. What's next? What else do I need to do? So my next thing will be to flesh this out. I'm not going to do that on stream. What I'll do is I'll come back with some of this fleshed out. We'll talk about it next session, and then we'll talk about First Adventure. At the moment, that's right, First Adventure. Let's see what we can quickly as a sub-adventure. Arrived in a large village. Something's gone missing. Large village. A group of children have gone missing in the nearby forest. I'm going to say Shadowfell. Affect the bleed. So it's going to be dark. It's going to be dingy. We're going to have Shadowfell being. So we're going to have creatures of the shadow. And we have to be a bit careful because we're talking low-level characters. But rescue the children, fight. So, first adventure, rescue the children. Inside a fight, so bit of social interaction in the village to find out what's happened. Maybe find some information about the village. But we'll talk about building that adventure next time. And we'll also go through a bit more of the information that I've just put notes together now, just so you guys can see what's next and what happens. But this is my process. This is what I do. I expand on it. I'm just thinking about it and talking about it, and it helps me focus what I'm thinking about it. Overall, I like what I'm coming up with, to a point that this game might even get run. My missus might kill me if I start running a third game, but we'll see. But for the starting point, I think we've got a good place to start. We're about a half an hour video. So next time it will be quickly going through a bit more fleshed out of this detail. I'm going to put this into a World Anvil document, and we'll flesh it out, and we'll go through it, and I'll put links in so people can see them, and we'll then start planning the first adventure. But for now, goodbye. I hope to see you guys next time.